Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to League Racing TV. We are here tonight for F1 22 action. It is TML F3 Season 9, Round 1 of the Championship, as we take in, of course, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix from the Jeddah Corniche circuit. My name is James Head. I'm going to be taking you through the stream, of course, back on a Friday night in my rightful home, Sod WOR. Joining me in the commentary box is Mr. Ivor Brin. Mike, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic, and after what we saw in F1 and F2 yesterday, this could be a spicy one and could be very interesting to see who's going to keep it on track.
It could be a really spicy one indeed. Of course, in Saudi Arabia, TML F1 did produce a real climactic finish, I've got to be honest. Tom, of course, picking up that puncture last night as well. When leading, when getting overtaken, of course, by GSP Chris, who took the win in TML F1. If you didn't want to be ruined in terms of that, ignore what I've just said and have a look at that, of course, a little bit later on. Looking through as well the comment section, good evening to everyone that has tuned in. Maze, of course, one of our super fans on the channel. Cypher Dan, I should say, in there saying yo, and Yellow Geeson and Cyberdan as well, also in there. And Yellow Geeson calling us beautiful already. We know we are the best commentary team that could ever be imagined for in TML F3. It's a good job we haven't got our faces on camera, which I think is good for you guys because you don't get to see my beard that I'm growing, which is very good. Anyways, we're going to have a look through the F3 lineup. We are about to get going out on track. We've got 18 drivers currently in the lobby, as you can tell, for F3 this season. That's the F2 lineup. I don't want to read that one out. F3 lineup for this season are as follows. It is Mercedes, Maze and Siege in the Mercedes. Red Bull are represented by Geese and Go 72 UK. Ferrari in with Jamie and Yanzu in the McLaren. It is Powdy and Yaram. Roygaard and Legend there in the Alpines. Aston Martin with Key and Steve WG. AlphaTauri represented by Schmitsky and Cygate. Alfa Romeo with LRE Dan, who's Cyberdan there in the chat, in the YouTube comments, along with Day Miles, who hopefully is going to be attending, which he is, which is good to see. Haas and Haas are represented by Great Elmo and Evil Chris, and then Williams may be the best pairing out of the lot. Dylan McGivern, of course, who was a Constructors' Champion last season, and Yellow Geeson, who is obviously going to be up there as well, I am sure, once he has got very good pace in him. And Mike, looking through that F3 lineup, a full grid, which is really good. We've got 18 drivers currently in the lobby. Any standouts amongst that field? Because it seems wide open.
Yeah, it does. Obviously, as you mentioned, with Dylan being a rapid driver, and I know he's definitely one to keep an eye on for this season.
Definitely going to be one to keep an eye on this season as well. Ghost 72 UK, who was going to be a favourable contender of mine, now no longer a favourable contender of mine, because I've just seen his comment there in the YouTube section. Have not been anywhere near the game for weeks and weeks, so this is not going to go well. Hopefully, though, Ghost can pick up his pace. I'm sure he's going to be up there towards the back end of the season. That is for sure. Yellow Geeson saying as well he won't be up there on this track. He doesn't like the track, which is an absolute excuse. From F1, certainly. This is why drivers weren't attending last night, I'm sure, in F1 and in F2. And regarding that in F1 and F2, if you are tuning in, expecting, of course, F1 and F2 and the fallout from last night, what we can say is drivers are going to be getting moved about from F1 and F2, and also new reserves are going to be coming in for both tiers as well. We're going to work night and day to get as many drivers as possible in, just so we can get that real stability, I think, within the field, and obviously create much fairer and cleaner racing. We saw the gaps, of course, with Aaron Tonchik and Blacks being in F1 last night, and that is, of course, is going to be appreciated. We listen to you guys as the drivers, and we are going to make changes ASAP, and probably from round 2 of the championship as well. We are running a little bit behind because Dylan McGivern's internet has decided to pack in himself at this stage. Luckily, I think he's just literally sneaked into the lobby, which is good to see. So his internet, I think, is back up, which is good. He's in the lobby, and it looks like we are good to go, of course, around the fish-shaped track of the Jeddah Corniche circuit. Of course, 6.1 kilometres in length, the second longest on the F1 calendar, 3.8 miles in length, 50, well, not 50 laps, 25 laps away to our drivers out on track as well. The lap record held around here by Charles Leclerc in 2022, and that was a 1 minute 31.6. That was in the race. We should be seeing, Mike, 1:27s as we saw last night in F1 and F2.
Yeah, we should be seeing 127s, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of 128s as everyone a little bit rusty, obviously coming off the Christmas break, and need to dial themselves back in.
Definitely so, and hopefully people are unaware of the Christmas turkey that might be still in their stomachs from Christmas Day dinner as well. But they have had time to obviously adapt to the brand new, well, not the brand new game, of course, adapt to the new season of the game. And this is now our first chance to see who is going to be the top contenders, of course, in TML F3 tonight, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing as well. May saying in the chat as well, you won't see a 127 from me. Who knows? Who could we see a 127 for? I think Jamie's going to be up there. Of course, OWO Ronnie is in there. I know he's quite quick as well from speaking to Atlas Copo about him. He's in the Red Bull tonight as a reserve. The reserve, by the way, are mainly Scandinavian drivers as well. We'll get the graphic up, I am sure, next week when OBS is fully kicked in once again next week, which, of course, for the first time ever, is going to be covered live with OBS on the channel for all 3 tiers, which is very good indeed. Saudi Arabia, though, first, Mike, and obviously, very interesting track. It is going to be a real test for our drivers. 19 drivers around here. I'm already hoping that there's going to be no collisions, but I think we'll probably see some tonight.
Yeah, and maybe not even collisions with each other. The walls are very close on track as well, and we saw in F2 last night that there was a few spinners and a few front wings gone missing due to those walls, and quite a few 3-second time penalties can be picked up around you as well.
Yeah, Vajaku was one of the first, of course, that crashed in F1. He lost his front wing as a result of a contact out through turn number 7. I think, as well, his teammate got caught up in that as well, in that incident. But we have got 19 drivers here. The first thing that I have said to Roy God is put it on midnight, and I don't think we are going to get midnight, judging by the conditions out on track. It's fine, though. It's fine. We can go over it for 1 week at least. But Jamie looks like he is the first man out on track, or he's going to be one of the first men out on track. And in fact, I think he actually is the first man out on track. Very rare that we actually ride on board with the driver, and then they're coming out the pit lane first. But that is the tight nature of the pit lane. Already you're catching that curb through turn number 1 and 2, but Jamie now out on his outlap along with Yellow Geese, who's also out there on an outlap at this stage. Predictions in the comment section, please, if you don't mind. Who's your top 3 in qualifying? Who's your top 3 in the race? And I'm going to push the same for you, Mike. Who's your top 3 in qualifying?
Top 3 in qualifying for me. I think Dylan can put it on pole, Yaham on the front row. And do you know what? A driver that I think is due a good season, Real Powdy.
Yeah, Powdy is going to be one of the interesting ones. I'm just sending a message, by the way, in the chat. And yeah, it should be set to midnight, so it might need to be a restart. I know the settings I think are already saved from Roy God's perspective, which is good. He's already in the pit lane, so he's already aware of it, I am sure. But it is a very different track, as Mace has mentioned in the Discord too. Obviously, this being out on track. What we will do, though, is obviously try bring the action, as Key has already crashed in qualifying. That's coming through turn number 4, through the left-hander. I think he's got caught on that curb on the inside with the wall basically sticking out on you. So Key has obviously spun so far out on track, and now Jamie on the run down the straight in towards turn 1. Mace is retired from the session as well. I believe we are getting a restart. I'm looking at Roy God mentioning here in the Discord. Roy God did set it on midnight apparently, so not sure what's going on. Jamie, though, on a lap starting in towards turn number 4 and then turn number 5. But it's a very weird glitch, perhaps, that we've got within the weather. What we should be doing, though, is restarting. And Jamie already nearly invalidated coming through turn number 8.
I'm just quickly having a little look at the settings for the weather and the time of day. And it says custom.
Custom? Oh.
Session
okay.
Start time custom.
Custom start time, so I think, unless he's knocked it by mistake potentially, I think we've got the wrong settings on, potentially, which is not that great at all. My God, that was in the pit lane, luckily, so if we are going to restart, we are going to kick that in, of course. And yes, we are going to have a restart, which is just been confirmed there in the Discord. I think it only makes sense, to be honest, that we do have a restart, put it on the official weather that we've had in recent races, of course, in F1 and in F2. So, that means Jamie is going to set this lap, and obviously not be a valid lap. Yoram is retiring as well out on track. Drivers can crash out on track, I suppose, and obviously as we've got migrating holes, that should be the big indicator of now drivers leaving, and Jamie is coming to the final corner on the run to the line, and it was a 129.1, even though the timing glitched. I thought it was going to be a 111 there. Weird.
Yeah, I was looking at that thinking, okay, what corners has Jamie cut by you and got away with?
Yeah, very strange indeed. What we will do, though, is just try and bring the action as much as possible out on track. Obviously, we're still in the early stages of qualifying at this stage, even though it's not technically a qualifying session. We'll bring action out on track until we get a new invite. Jamie, Siege and Schmitsky currently the top three. Obviously, drivers will be aware that we are restarting, which I think is fair. We have to restart, of course, and we should not really complete qualifying in these conditions, because if we complete qualifying again, they're going to be in different conditions, and therefore the temperatures are going to be different and the tyres are going to be different perhaps as well. Paddy, by the way, is on a lap as well, 101.2 in the middle sector, not looking too bad at all from the McLaren, and he has got a very exciting teammate in Yoram as well. Yoram has been one of those drivers that has been in and around the divisions as of late in TML. He's now in F3 alongside Paddy, of course, and this could be the hallmark pairing of the season, perhaps an early title contender for the constructors.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, Powdy is one of those drivers that's due a good season.
And that proves it. 28.9, very good lap from Powdy's perspective. Jamie there, second, Siege there in third. OWR Ronnie also on a lap. Some of these drivers might have their devices turned off, so I'm not sure how we can communicate. If somebody can go into the lobby and bring up that everyone now needs to retire in the pit lane, that'll be great. We are waiting on Roy God, as I say, to invite us once again into the lobby, which I'm sure is just a matter of moments away, as already Powdy has crashed there coming through turn 11. Dylan there is joining, and I think we've actually got the invites now, judging by how many drivers are now leaving. And yes, midnight conditions apparently are now on. Now, if we could get an invite, that'll be fantastic, but we are going to wait until those invites come in, of course, which gives us a good time to see, of course, a bit of analysis from the comment section looking at that. Dan saying it's his first race with traction control off. Should we don't want to be in F2, Dan, with traction control off? We might need the drivers there, that's for sure. Yellow Geese is saying he's predicting a 28.3 for himself, or a 0.4. So that's an interesting bit of analysis there from himself. We'll have to see, of course, how his lap is going to go in this brand new session, which is getting loaded very soon indeed. And Ghost UK has invited me straight away into the lobby, and Michael will do the good thing as well and get you in as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ghost doesn't rate me anymore, so he didn't invite me.
He's ghosted you. He's ghosted you.
He has absolutely ghosted me.
I'll give you an invite, though. We'll just go blue screen for a second. I will have a look at the lobby settings, by the way, when my game decides not to freeze and trying to get in people to the lobby. There we go. Alright, hang on a minute. It's taken a long time for this to actually work. But you should, hopefully, now, given time, you should have an invite now.
Yes, I do. So I shall join up, even though Ghost didn't want me to join, but
It is fine, Yeah, it's just confirmed, by the way, it is up on everyone's screen now. We've got quick weather on in terms of dynamic, and session start time is set to midnight. So just to confirm that, we are in a standard style, I think, of lobby hosting as well. So that might be why. It might have glitched potentially. I know the drivers normally who host normally set it up in expert, I think it is. The obviously gives you more like tyre sim and tyre temperature and all of those options, all those fancy things that we don't have, of course, on PS4. But we are waiting on only 2 more drivers to join. Once these 2 drivers are in, we can get back going once again for qualifying, and of course around the Saudi Arabian track, which is parted, of course, quite literally by the Red Sea. The Red Sea right next to the track on the right-hand side. And actually, the track is being changed in real life for 2023. Apparently, I think it's turns 17, 18, 19. All of that S section has become a little bit wider now. I think it's 4 meters wider compared to normal, which means the track is going to be 4 meters in from where it originally was, from away from the Red Sea, basically. So those track changes are going to be happening in real life, Mike, and that is going to be fascinating to see, obviously, when the new game comes out, F1 23, which I've already heard and already seen a photo that apparently it's going to have motion capture in next year.
Ooh, that could be very interesting, especially from a comm side of things. Motion capture.
It will. It will. Yeah, Natalie Pinkham, I think it was, on... I think it was her Instagram. I saw a photo of her pertaining motion capture, and I can only assume that it might be built around my idea of there being a new game engine for the new game as well. Now, I've heard rumours, obviously we're running at the minute, I think, on a bog standard Codemasters own base system at this stage, but I've heard we're going to be using the Unity game engine, which is so much better. It's built so much better graphical wise as well, so much easier to code on that as well. So if that is the case, and the game engine is going to change, what changes are we going to see in the new game around here, Saudi Arabia, and just in general?
I think for a lot of people, I think what most people in the community seems to want at the moment is for it to gear more towards a sim. Less of the arcadey type feel that you get.
Yeah, I don't blame them, to be honest. I don't blame them, and to be honest, multiplayer experience on this game is different to previous years. I can even tell that from a commentary perspective, and I can even tell that, of course, from a racing perspective. These guys, I'm sure, will back me up on this. But we, in the League Racing community, I think want complete fairness from Codemasters, complete reliability, and also complete transparency as well. And transparency will go a long way on the new game. Obviously, gear it towards the sim racing folk, give it towards the league racing folk as well, and make it more league racing orientated rather than paying content creators to basically pay for what they want to say and what the guys at home want to obviously bring in to buy the game as well. So I think they need to be more transparent, and I certainly want to see the ghosting system fixed as well. We have now got, though, the first guys out on track once again. Enough of us waffling on. It is Jamie once again in a beautiful, bright night light sky here in Jeddah. Beautiful reflection coming out the pit there. I'm on board with Jamie coming out the pits, and that reflection and those textures off the bridge section are really nice. It does mirror real life quite nicely there.
Yeah, it does, to be fair, but obviously for Jamie and for Powdy as well, they managed to get a lap on the board in the previous lobby. Does that build their confidence going into the session?
It does, and I think drivers, obviously, when they were waiting for new invites to be sent out, we saw a majority of drivers setting laps on that session, so obviously they want to try and build up their confidence around here. Now, this is a very hard track to try and gear down on, because it is one of the hardest on the F1 game. Belgium is probably no different to this. Jeddah, obviously, much being a flatter track, much being rather geared towards speed orientation. It does really catch you out, and the walls there, coming out of 22 and 23, that does catch you out. We saw spinners there in F1 last night as well, and I'm sure in F2 it was exactly the same, people crashing out in qualifying, but this now is game time for the drivers out on track. There is no going back from this point onwards. This is now the time that they've got to win. Tam saying as well in the comment section, Yoram for the win. Now, I think Yoram could get P1 potentially out on track. It depends which Yoram turns up. If it's the consistent Yoram, he should be up there. If it's not, then he might just struggle. But Jamie, certainly consistent. He comes through the right-hand of turn number 2, through the left-hand of turn number 3, underneath the Pirelli 150-year sign, coming through the left-hand left-hand turn number 4, through the right-hand turn number 5. Just a little bit sketchy coming out of there. Through 5, through 6, through 7, through 8. Very, very hesitant from Jamie on his first lap at this stage. Coming out of turn 10, through turn 11, through turn 12, through 13, through the first sector. 32.5 in the first sector is actually not too bad, given how hesitant he was.
Yeah, Jamie being very cautious on his first run, and probably rightfully so. It's better just to get a lap on the board, even if it's not one at full tilt yet.
Yeah, definitely. So Jamie now coming to the left-hander of 17, in through 18, 19, 20, 21. All the run down in towards 22 and 23. Famously, Charles Leclerc hit the wall on the inside line, forced him out wide and crashing the wall on the right-hand side there. Mick Schumacher doing exactly the same as well, and Jamie nearly follows, but he did pick up an invalidation through there at turns 22 and 23, with now him on an invalid lap. And I think Siege might be one of the next. Actually, he's just started on a run. Dan is on a lap as well, coming through the middle sector. It's one of the McLarens. It's not one of the McLarens. Who's next? Dylan McGivern is the man we are waiting on board with in the Williams, coming down through the final couple of corners on the run to the line with Dylan McGivern. 29.1 to start off the night, not bad at all.
Decent lap there for Dylan, lap on the board, but immediately beaten by Yelly Gleason.
Oh, and Dan! 28.3 already. Wow, that is a strong lap from Dan. His first run with no traction seems to be suited him quite well, let's just say. Dan out on top, Yellow Geese in second, Dylan there in third. Paddy's invalidated to the first sector. Steve has lost his front wing, in fact, coming through the middle sector, so not sure where he crashed out on track. Johan back in the pits. Legend coming to the final couple of corners, 102.4 in that final sector, in the middle sector. Now through the final sector on the run to the line. He should be around Cygate Schmitzky area, I think. And goals actually just ahead of Cygate by a tenth of a second, but Dan out on top, Yellow Geeson in second, Dylan McGivern, sorry, there in third, Siege in fourth, Great Elmo there in fifth, doing a good job, of course, formerly known as Passel. Evil Chris, 33.1 in the first sector. Steve is back in the pit lane after losing his front wing, and Powdy is still on an invalid lap at this stage. For the first run's gone though, Mike. Dan out on top, 0.6 of a second ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, a hugely impressive lap time from Dan very early on, putting a stamp on qualifying here. And who was it that said a 28.3 for pole position? Because I think it's going to get beaten.
Yellow Geeson, that was.
Yep, Yellow Geeson, that's a banger lap, mate.
Yeah, that is a banker lap, and Dan, obviously once he goes on to a fresher set of soft compounder tyres, will improve. No question of a doubt about that. Unless that was a perfect lap and he doesn't improve the rest of the session, that is probably going to be very hard to beat. And actually, I'm going to call it now. That's probably pole position right there from Dan. I will stand to be corrected, though, if anybody does go quicker. Evil Chris, the line, goes fifth. Not a bad lap time at all there from the newcomer. Evil Chris there in fifth, ahead of his teammate, actually, Grey Elmo there in sixth. Powdy, I think, has just started on another run as well. And actually, he's backed off through the first sector. Must have had a mistake. 36.2 in the first sector from Powdy. So all of that pressure that we put on Powdy seems to be cracking early on. Let's not put him under more pressure.
Yeah, the thing with Powdy, and it's kind of the same with Yaham as well, is sometimes they're absolutely brilliant and then sometimes they just go missing in races.
Yeah, it's the same with Yarham as well. Both of them are very consistent on their days, very consistent drivers. And McLaren possibly are one of the favourites for the constructors, so that is obviously going to get into their heads, and obviously if they're listening to us on the stream, that is also going to get into their heads as well. But Powdy, as you say, is normally one of the quickest drivers in the F3 grid on his day. He's up there with the likes of Dan, he's up there with the likes of Yellow Geeson and Dylan, who are in the top three. So Powdy doesn't want to try and obviously make him get into his own head, if you like, and obviously wants to try and deliver. Somebody else that wants to deliver as well, OWR Ronnie, who is on a lap coming to turn 11, 12, and then up the hill and towards turn number 13, and his first sector, 32.9. It's not quick, but it's not too bad either, and he's going around Ghost, Legend, Cygate, that sort of mix, I would think. So he comes out through the left hand of turn 13 through 14, with, of course, the Jumeirah Hotel on the left-hand side there, in towards 16 and 17, very tricky chicane, and that snap, the back end there of Ronnie really wanted to step out coming to the right-handed corner, so it doesn't look like he's actually got a good setup on.
Yeah, and around a circuit like this, setup is so crucial, and the 1 minute 1.9 in the middle sector. But if his rear end's going to be snapping around like that for the race, it's going to be a long night for Ronnie.
Yeah, it is going to be a long night for Ronnie. Evil Chris, by the way, was I think a 1 or 2.5 in the middle sector, so this is going to be now Siege, Evil Chris. That sort of area is where I'm looking at for this lap. Ronnie on the run through the final corner, on the run to the line, should go between Siege and Chris. And indeed he does, right in the middle, 29.7, and slots basically right in between as well. Dan currently out on top, Yellow Geeson in second, Dylan McGivern in third, Siege there in fourth as well on his return, and TML F3 as well. Likes of Steve on a lap, as we've seen an improvement further up the field. I think that was Dave Miles who just finished the lap there in 12th, the Welshman on a 30.8. Roygod was on a lap and was actually purple in the first sector, but he's invalidated.
Yeah, and I believe Jamie's also invalidated as well. Actually, no, he's just started the lap, so my apologies on that one. Would have been his out lap, that was invalid. But Stevie G, another guy that's yet to set a lap time, he's currently on the lap. In the middle sector, it's a 1 minute 3. It's not looking good for Stevie G out there.
Not at all, not at all. He doesn't seem confident around this track, and obviously that is going to be hurting him quite a lot, I think, in this session. Obviously, Chris was a 1 or 2.5, so he's going to go around Legend, Sygate, Day Miles, that sort of area is where we're going to see him. Obviously, as the races progress, we should see the field get closer and closer. Ghost mentioned there, it's only 2 seconds to get pole position. And actually, Steve backs off his lap, so he's back in the pit lane. Yorm's just starting on 1. Roygod, as I say, is invalid, and he's run out of fuel. Jamie, though, out of the first sector, 33.7. He's now coming up in toward the middle sector split, and I'm not sure, actually, if he's backed off a lap. It looks quite quick, though, down the straight from Jamie, and it's a 103.6 in the middle sector. Not that good from Jamie through the middle sector. Dan though out on top, Yellow Geese in second, Dylan McGivern in third, halfway in qualifying gone as Haas, I think, had a moment coming out of turn 12.
Yep, I believe that would have been Evil Chris getting a bit of a moment there. I'm currently on board with Yaham coming up to this middle sector split now, and what's it going to be? It's a 1 minute 1.8.
This is going to trouble Dan, I think, for pole position. This is a very good lap from Yoram. Now coming in, the Red Bull has spun, coming through turn 13 as well. I think that might have been Ghost on that lap, just backing off when he's in the pit lane, so it must have been Ghost. And Chris as well wasn't in that lap, so that's why he got out of the way, and that's why you saw the yellow flags there from the Haas. In the middle sector, but Yoram surely going to go between Dan and Yellow Geese, and with this lap, it's looking like a very competitive lap from Yoram on the run to the line, and actually goes fourth in the end. A little bit disappointing from where I was expecting. Siege goes fourth as well, 29.2, good lap from him, and Dylan McGivern does improve as well, 0.2 per second. Didn't improve his his position, but he certainly improved his lap time, 28.9. Dan though still out on top, and Dan is out of the middle sector, and he's 0.4 up in the middle sector. This is a huge lap again from Dan. He could be a second clear of the rest of the field. F2, here he comes. Takes on a bit of slipstream, on the run to the line, 27.8, are you kidding me? It's TML F3, he's showing these guys up as Dan, 27.8, Yellow Geese at 28.9, and Dan is clearly a class above the field.
Yep, no, the question is, who's going to get the transfer papers out there, because I think he needs a move up. Proudy in the middle sector did a 1 minute 1.7, which of course was about 2 times quicker than what we saw from Yaham, but he backed off in the final sector.
Interesting, so maybe not giving his real pace, perhaps?
Potentially. I just want to compare his lap time to the likes of Yellow Gleason 2 seconds.
Well, if he was 1 or 1.7, I'm imagining Yellow Geeson's 1 or 2.1 middle sector? Has to be.
32.8, 28.8, and basically the exact same sector 1 and 2 times as what Yellow Gleason did.
Interesting. So Parody not giving us away his real pace, or maybe a bit of sandbagging going on, let's just say, from Parody. Obviously, we don't want to use that term lightly, but there is still 6 minutes to go in the session. Obviously, he's got a banker lap in on the board, 30.7, and as long as he's got a valid lap time on the board, I think he'll be quite happy. But obviously, as you say, if he's got that improvement in the final sector to come, we should be seeing him jump up the field by good, maybe 2 seconds up to Yellow Geese and Dylan, that sort of area, as I think Ghost has gone 5th as well, 29.3 from him in the Red Bull. Jamie is on a lap as well, coming out through the final sector. He's now coming through 26 and 27 into the double left-hander through this part. Paddy gets out of the way because he's run out of fuel on the left-hand side. Jamie now around the final couple of corners. Through the final corner, Max Verstappen hit the wall famously there in 2021 in qualifying, and then, of course, Hamilton Verstappen all kicked off. But Jamie on the run to the line, that's more like it from Jamie, 29.3, goes 6th.
Yep, and we got Sygate just starting a lap from the looks of things, and he's going to get us underway on the run down in towards turn 1. Obviously, for Sygate, it's going to be a big improvement for him to get himself into this running for a top 10 starting position.
Well, May's also saying as well in the chat, he was the one to watch, perhaps, from Maze's perspective. So Sygate, one to watch from Maze's perspective, maybe one of the ones to watch from my perspective as well, coming through turn 8. And again, he's one of the ones that doesn't seem that confident at all coming through here. Sygate now through the middle sector, the first sector split into the middle sector, 33.5, he's a tenth and a half up in the first sector. But considering last night we were seeing 32.1s, 32s, and even sub-32 first sectors from the F1 guys, it is a little bit of a shame to see. Obviously, these are slower drivers, obviously in F3, and they are using assist, as Sygate somehow recovers that car first and foremost, but somehow also keeps that lap valid. Again, like my American commentary that I did in EML in qualifier night, probably the widest track limits I think I've ever seen. And again, yeah, and he's still valid.
How has he done that?
What? What on earth is going on? Is this some trickery that he is performing out on track? Is he actually Yarno up me or something out on track at this stage? It's unbelievable. 30.7. I don't think he's going to improve on his lap as he goes very deep into the final corner. Absolutely messes his run up now on the run to the line. He might actually do improve a tenth of a second now. He's back in the pit lane. I don't blame him. After 2 possible invalidations, how on earth he wasn't invalid there, I do not know. Answers on a postcard, please.
Well, I mean, Sygate may definitely be one to keep an eye on, but not for the right reasons. If it's setting up as giving him that much trouble, because there is always that running thing with Sygate, very quick, but track limits are his biggest downfall.
Yeah, definitely so. May's also saying line only drivers in F3. Yeah, I've realised that now. I think Dan put the wrong setup on, or wrong assist on. Yellow Geeson, though, looking very committed through the first sector. Not a bad first sector at all. 32.4 in the first sector from Yellow Geeson. Now, this is one of the tracks that he doesn't like, apparently. But with a first sector like that, he's not too far off Dan at all in that first sector. As he now comes in towards the left-hander of 16, then through the right-hander of, the left-hander of 17 through the right-hander of 16. But Yellow Geese are now on the run down the straight, this fishtailing straight, all the run in towards 22 and 23. Open up that second DRS zone as well. And Yellow Geese are now through the middle sector. 1 minute flat through the middle sector. That is more like it from Yellow Geeson. But he invalidates. He ran too much on the curb through 22.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to have enough time to go again.
He won't. I think if he's got enough fuel, which I don't think he has, he might. No, 40 seconds turnaround, impossible. That is absolutely impossible. So Yellow Geeson, I think, is done. He will be absolutely livid unless he can back up enough fuel and then go for another run. I don't think that's going to be the case. And yeah, he's actually came back into the pit lane. Dan though out on top. Yellow Geeson there in second. Dylan there in third. Cyber Dan saying as well, ABS is on and line is also on as well. Yes. It is, because it is assist, and I think that might be in reference as well to his own assist as well. So if he is on OBS, and he is online as well, I'd love to see it turn off, and I'd love to see him in F1 this season.
I mean, speaking from experience, it can be very tricky going from assist on to assist off.
Oh, it can. Oh, it can. I think that's why majority of drivers want to race in F2 and F3 and not coming like against the goats of Tom and Jensen that we've got, of course, in F1 this season. Roygo, by the way, did get a valid lap time in. He's actually invalid through the final sector. He's run out of fuel, I think, as well as Steve WG has retired into the pit lane. Powdy, I think, has backed off. He's just on the run to the line there, 30.7. I think that was an improvement. Yoram is to the final corner as well. Just trying to see if there's anybody in the lap. Siege is on the lap, but he's 2.5 tenths up.
Yeah, I just jumped on board with him as he came for the first sector split. He about 2 times up and looking to get himself onto the front row. Obviously, with Gleason not being able to improve on his lap time, it's a straight fight by here, but another improvement in the middle sector for Siege. But is it going to be enough?
I think it could be. I think it could be ahead of Yellow Geeson at this stage. I mean, he's nearly 4 tenths up through the middle sector. This 4 tenths is going to be a 28.7, I think, as he runs very wide through the final corner, but it is a good line coming out the final corner on the run to the line. I'm going to say 28.7 from Siege on the run to the line. Oh, he's gone short. 29 flat, and he lost time after the final corner. That is the end of qualifying. Ghost is done through the first sector.
Dylan, 3 tenths up. Going to be jumping onto that front row.
Clearly going to be second, I think, when the lap goes Dylan. And yeah, he does. He goes second. 28.5, 4 tenths ahead of Yellow Geeson. 7 tenths behind Dan, which is still a big chasm of a gap. Ghost, as I say, he's backed off through the first sector. Siege is not on a lap. Yoram was 4 tenths up in the middle sector as well, so he's actually improving quite considerably in this final sector. Now in toward the final couple of corners at 26 and 27. We see another improvement up the field. I think that was Powdy going fifth. Yoram now through the final corner on the run towards the line. Siege there still in fourth. Will he be there for longer though? Yoram actually backs off on the run to the line.
That's a very strange call from Yaham. He definitely could have chucked himself up there, up into potentially third. Legend improves by 2 tenths.
Yeah, Legend goes 7th. Good lap from him. Ronnie's 2 tenths down in the final sector. Great Elmo, I think, improved by a 10th of a second there as well to a 29.9. Key is done in terms of a lap day. Miles is through the middle sector. Ronnie to the line doesn't improve in the end. 800ths down. Day Miles has backed off. Roy God has backed off. That, my friends, is the end of qualifying. And well, it's Dan who's perceivably, if he wins this race, going to be up into F2 next week. Dylan McGivern there in second, and Yellow Geeson there in third, in what has just turned into possibly one of the most procession-like qualifying sessions I think I've ever seen.
That is a word which has flabbergasted me. I have no idea what that word means. Where's the dictionary?
Procession. Procession. It literally means walkover.
I'm a simple Welshman. You can't be throwing these complex English words at me.
Basically, he's run away with it. He has run away with it as Dan out on top. A fantastic session from him. And obviously, we'll have a look at the full grid for qualifying now. It is Dan out on top from the Northern Irishman of Dylan McGivern in second. Williams, by the way, second and third, with Yellow Geeson there in third. Siege in fourth, with Powdy in fifth. Ghost there in sixth. And actually very competitive between these guys. Powdy, Ghost, Legend, Jamie, Yoram, all covered. Ghost to Yoram's 400ths of a second. So very competitive in terms of their laps. Chris there in 10th. Ronnie in 11th, the Norwegian, with Elmo in 12th. Steve there in 13th. Key in 14th. Mays 15th. Sygate in 16th. Day Miles 3 seconds off the pace there, down in 17th. Schmitsky there in 18th. Roy God didn't get a valid lap time in. He's down right at the back of the field. But it is, of course, that man Dan out on top. And Dan might be the man to beat.
Judging from Dan's pace in qualifying, it's definitely looking like we could be getting the transfer papers in and for him to sign for F2.
Transfer paper. I'm one of the league directors, so the transfer papers are already in. I'm going to have a talk to him, certainly. But we're going to focus on, of course, the race. And if he produces a really good performance in the race and just runs away with it in the race, then there is no shadow of a doubt he'll be moving up to F2 and really test himself there. Of course, F2 is line only. It is on a different day for Dan. And I think he did say he couldn't make Thursdays, so that's why we put him in Fridays. So that might cause a little bit of a knock-on. But if Dan is willing enough, of course, and if he can make the time for it, then of course F2 is going to be his. And in fact, actually, we've still got full grid seats to be wrapped up there as well, which is even better. So, Dan, if you want to, that seat could be yours. But it's all dependent on, of course, if he does take the race win here in F3 tonight. If he DNFs and he just follows it through turn number 1 and then crashes through turn number 1, I know he's still F2 pace, so he's not going to get away with that at all. But what we are going to get away with, though, is 5 red lights, which are coming on very soon indeed here in Saudi Arabia. Round 1 of the championship for TML F3. And it is lights and away we go, and Dan gets a very, very good start, but actually sleeps off the start, and Dylan McGivern is already through and into the race lead, and now Siege makes it 3 wide and towards turn number 1, tries to get the inside of Yellow Geese, and he's had an absolute shock with the start. Mercedes running wide in the background there, I think it was Mays, but Dylan leads the way, Dan in second, Siege there in third, all clean relatively through turns 1 and 2. I think Elmo was caught up in an instant further down the field. Mays was certainly side by side with him, along with Sygate. Ronnie dropping down the field as well as made a mistake through the S section, and he's again been caught up in an instant along with Schmidtsky further down the field, who was spun, but Dylan McGivern are way out in front, Dan there in second, Siege there in third, Yellow Geeson in fourth, Goldstone over the back of Parody there in fifth and sixth. Up the front of the field, very clean racing indeed, as Yoram now looks to the inside of Jamie, trying to get the job done on his fellow Brit to the inside line, and also Legend trying to go side by side on the exit of 10-13 with Ghost, tries to get the job done. Oh, there's contact! Jamie and Yoram! Jamie moves across, and Yoram didn't realise and didn't expect them to be there. The safety car is well and truly out on track. Didn't expect them to be there at all. Yoram was alongside. Surely Jamie could have given enough room there. He's got no front wingers. Yoram's still in the race. Jamie out of the race. They might blame each other on that one, but that was crystal clear from Yoram's perspective. Jamie moved across and just shut the door.
Yep. And I was in behind on... I believe on Evil Chris's POV, and I watched it unfold right in front. Whether Jamie had a little bit of a snap or whether he was trying to squeeze, Yaham definitely moved across over to the McLaren.
Yeah, it's perceivable, but obviously they were side by side through turn 13, so Jamie should have been still aware that he was still side by side coming through turn number 13. Siege, by the way, is back into the pit lane, and he has actually got onto a set of set of medium compound tyres even. The set of medium compound tyres is on. In fact, actually, a few drivers are in the pit lane. Yoram predictably is in the pits. I think Mays might have picked up damage on that first lap as well. No, he's just going for front wing. For a tyre change. Schmidtsky also into the pit lane as well. I wonder if this is going to be for a tyre change as well in the AlphaTauri, and indeed it is. So set of soft compound tyres goes on for Schmidtsky. So tyre changes are Yoram, Siege and Schmidtsky, who didn't pit in for front wing change. Yoram, of course, with that front wing change. Sorry, Siege, Mays and Schmidtsky, I should say. Yoram with that front wing change there in 17 right down the back of the field, and he sped into the pit lane as well, just for good measure. But Dylan McGivern leads the way, Dan in second, Yellow Geeson in third. We saw that from our perspective. As you say, it's perceivable that Jamie did get a snap. He was very close to the wall on the right hand side, and obviously if he was close to the wall, that could have lost the back end of the car. And when you're side by side coming out of a corner, and you know the physics of this game, car on car contact usually doesn't end well. Absolutely
not, and especially around circuits like this where it's so tight and the walls are so close and it's so unforgiving. Like, if you're going to be side by side, you really have to show maximum amount of respect to each driver.
Yeah, Jamie in the Discord has already apologised for the incident as well, which is really good to see. It's good sportsmanship right from the outset. It's a different side to Jamie, actually, because normally he argues the point and then goes through. But we saw that from his POV, from Yoram's POV, and crystal clear that it's side by side, coming out of turn 13. It's an off-camber corner as well, which I think adds to that pressure of trying to go all the way around the outside. And to be fair, Yoram was the one actually ahead, going into the corner. He was fractionally ahead, but Jamie with that better exit had the outside. Obviously it'll go to the stewards if they do want to report it, but the apology is there from Jamie's perspective. Good to see. Dylan McGivern out on top, Dan in second, Yellow Geeson in third, still under the safety car here in Jeddah. Myself and Mike taking you through the action as well. Most position gains though at the end of that first lap. Obviously calls with the safety car out on track. Roy God has gained 7, Sygate has gained 5, Dane Miles has gained 4, and also big positions gained for Steve, who I think avoided all of that carnage and is now in 8th position.
Yep, done very well, and I thought Yaham would do this, come back into the pits and serve that 5 seconds, chuck on a fresh set of mediums. But he's not going to be able to go to the end on those tyres. See, last night in F2, we saw a very climatic end to the race as punchers began to come out at the end of the race for a couple of the medium runners.
Yep, exactly the same thing happened in F1 as well, where Tom was going, I think, 19 laps on a set of medium compound tyres. They were literally 3 corners away from making it right to the end of the race and making it for a win. But even though he picked up a 3-second penalty, he would have took the win out on track, even with Chris getting the move done on the final lap of the race. But Tom picked up a puncture. He ended up 3rd in the end, and obviously was rather disappointed with that after the race. But punctures can happen, and obviously those guys in a set of mediums will transition to a set of hards. That's the better compound tyre to be on around here later on in the race. So Yellow Geese and Powdy and Ghost, I think, have missed a real asset, as there was a McLaren, I thought, went in the wall there in the background. That was Powdy trying to warm up his tyres, I think. He almost went in the wall, I think, coming out of turn 16 and 17. But Yellow Geese and Powdy and Ghost, you'd imagine, Mike, that they're going to be strong in the first half. Come the second half of the race, when they transition onto the mediums, they're going to have to get at least 16 laps out of those tyres to get to the end.
Yeah, obviously the mediums are good for about, I'd say, about 10 laps before they start dropping off dramatically compared to the hards. But I mean, probably Yellow Geese and Ghost are in good positions, as long as they can keep with Dan and Dylan up ahead and just stay in this little train. They'll be coming good by the end of the race.
They will be indeed. The virtual Vermolander is now Dylan. He's now the virtual safety car. The safety car is coming into the pit lane now, as you can tell through the final corner on this wide out camera angle. And already Dylan says, I thought he was saying go. No, he does say go. And actually caught out by Dan, get a really good exit through the final corner. So Dylan's on the back foot here, running down in towards turn 1, and already Dan is closing in very quickly indeed, trying to retake the lead like he lost on the lap 1, and dives it to the inside line, sends it too deep, but he gets the car stopped, and brilliant move from Dan to take the race lead from Dylan McGivern there in second, Yellow Geeson in third. That was smart from Dan to try and get the move. He's got ERS to burn as well. Dylan McGivern's got slightly more. Yellow Geeson has got more than both of them combined as well, but Dan out on top, Dylan McGivern in second, Yellow Geeson in third. What a restart that is from Dan.
Yep, fantastic from Dan to get the jump on Dylan on the restart, but honestly, it looks like in the first couple of corners, doesn't look like Dylan's got his tyres up to temperature. A little bit of a slide here and there from what I noticed.
He doesn't look like he's actually got the pace compared to Dan at this stage, and it's 0.6 of a second. It's now 0.5. I think Dan's just made a bit of a mistake there, coming through 13 and 14. Legend on the back of Ghost as well, and Chris is on the back of these guys as well. So all of this is now beginning to come into play. Damiles as well on that set of soft compound tyres is one to watch out for at this early stage of this race. He's going to be theoretically the quickest man out on track at this stage, even with those tyres being quite warm under the safety car. So Damiles there should be aiming to make up ground. Normally not the quickest of drivers though, so he might struggle in trying to make that up. Steve is on the back of Evil Chris, running through the final couple of corners. As soon as I said about Damiles, he wasn't the slowest driver. He's got another safety car out on track, and he's lost his front wing, coming out of 22 and 23. There's the first commentator's curse of the season.
Yes, it's Friday the 13th, let's just put it there. Let's leave it at that.
I can only imagine, because we saw it in qualifying where drivers were picking up invalid laps. Sieges, by the way, came back in the pit lane. He might transition to a set of hards. No, set of mediums coming back out for Siege. Interesting call. I thought he would have went for set of hards. Unless he started on those tyres, of course, and then he probably won't be able to get to the end of the race. But Damiles in the pit lane, Schmidtsky also in the pit lane as well for a new change of tyres. And he's gone into a set of soft compound tyres. Damiles in, and will go for a set of mediums. Probably up until wherever he can get those tyres up until at this stage. And obviously with that commentator's curse, that is now 1-0 to me in terms of the commentator's curses for this season. But Damiles there, the Welshman, he's there in 18. Luckily though, he's still in the race, which I think is the best thing. And obviously he can try now focus as he completely obliterates the pit lane the pit lane exit point through turn number 1. Damiles though in 18 is still in the race, and that is crucial.
Yeah, you gotta be in it to get points out of it, and Damiles definitely still in it. And even if you don't have the pace, it's always better just to keep going. Even if you make a load of mistakes, just keep going, bring home some points, because all these points can be very crucial by the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely so indeed. And Dan obviously leading the way from Dylan McGiven in second, Yellow Geeson currently there in third. And obviously Daymars, yeah, you've got to be in it to win it to actually try and win this race. Still 18 drivers in, which I've got to be honest, I wasn't expecting 18 drivers to be in at this point. I was expecting a little bit less, but it's still good nonetheless. It's quite surprising for me, certainly, from a TML F3 perspective. But Dan leads the way, Dylan McGiven in second, Yellow Geeson third. The safety car, of course, will be in next lap once it has picked up the back markers of Schmitsky and of Day Miles. Looking through the comment section as well, Dan was saying there was improvement in the lap as well, and Yellow Geeson saying it was a good day for Williams so far. It is still Friday the 13th, yeah. Friday the 13th, he has had it in threes, quite literally, Yellow Geeson. He's now in third position out on track, which is the fourth thing to add to that. But lightning struck twice for him a little bit earlier on, where he was supposed to be on a date. I'm just going to share the details of this now out on track. Well, we've got a little bit of a break in the action. Yellow Geeson was supposed to be on a date. In the end, his car broke down, public transport on strike, and now he ended up losing, second position in TML F3. If that's not threes, and it's not that, if that's not lightning striking 3 times, I don't know what is.
No comment.
No comment. I mean, they're entitled to go on their dates. They're young lads, for goodness sake. I think Yellow is, if I'm not mistaken, at uni. So, obviously, there is more to be had by that. But the less we say about that, the better. We still are not pre-watershed, unfortunately, here in TML F1. But Dan leads the way, Dylan McGiven in second, Yellow Geeson in third, lap 6 out of 25. Beautiful camera angle, that, by the way. I'll just turn the timing tab off just so you can see the camera angle, with Jeddah there, of course, in the middle. Now, I heard on a rumour mill, and only on a rumour mill, that they were actually going to replace that park with a marina, like Miami.
Could be interested.
Could be interesting. I think my silence there said it all about my opinion on it. But yeah, it is similar, to be honest. We have the hairpin in Miami, and we have the hairpin here in Jeddah. It is quite similar. It is a Herman Tilke design track, both of them, of course. So, I mean, what do you expect when it's a Herman Tilke design track? And obviously, tracks do want to copy each other as well. Dan, though, now the virtual Bermalander, because the safety car is coming in. He will be the virtual safety car. And also, just to finish off a point as well, I saw an article by one of my good old friends from back in the day, a Dublin Grand Prix. Anybody's opinions on that?
I am all for a Dublin Grand Prix.
No, you want to see it in Cardiff. Cardiff or Swansea, there you are.
Well, there was meant to be a racetrack being built up in Evervale way back when, but that got cancelled. But that's a little bit of a tidbit. But Dan gets us underway again, and this time Dylan has a better restart.
He does. He does. He pulled the throttle through the final corner, and on the run to the line, obviously he's not going to get the move done dead end towards turn 1, but we are back underway once again. I don't think there's any side-by-sides going on further down the field in towards turn number 1 and 2. The field is well strung out coming in towards that part of the track. Ghost is on the back of Parody, though, coming through turn 4 and 5, and now really beginning to get on with things, of course. A contender last season in the F4 Championship, which recovered on the League Racing TV title. Of course, F3 being the only only assist tier that we've got this season. And Ghost there in 5th, doing a good job. He's all over the place there, coming out the S section. Key has just lost the car, I think, coming through the middle sector. He's spun coming through turn number 8 and 9. Hopefully that is not another safety car potentially coming in there for Key. Mays has also let Siege through, I think, further down the field. But now, Ghost, as soon as I was saying that, he had a bit of a moment coming out of 13. And look at Legend and Chris all over the back of him already.
Yep, Legend and Chris trying to jump on the opportunity here. You got Yahan making his way through the field, and oh my god, Roy God's in the wall, and he's around.
Roy God in the...
just went from him through that corner. Forget what corner it is.
Yeah, 16 and 17, I think, where he's spun, and now Chris is trying to get move done on Legend. He just came across him there slightly. It was a bit of an off-camber moment there from Legend. Chris had to back off the throttle, and now Steve is chasing these guys down as well. Ronnie and Elmo are going to be going at it as well. Two characters out of Elmo's show, potentially, in behind, but still in 9th and 10th position, doing a good job. Legend on the back of Ghost down the straight, trying to get the job done in towards turn 1, and look at the closing speed of Legend to the inside line. Goes the Norwegian to the inside line. Beautiful job for Legend down the inside line. Fair as you like, he's through and he's into 5th.
Yeah, and to be fair, Ghost, for that small mistake, definitely needs one of these medium runners in front of him to kind of drag him back up to the guys up ahead of him.
Yeah, definitely so. And Legend, obviously, now with that set of mediums, obviously we've had more laps under the safety car than racing laps, so those tyres are going to be fresh. Same with Chris in behind. He's going to try now apply the pressure to the back of Ghost, the Brit and the French. Hopefully not going to be having an entente cordiale out on track, but if there is, I'd like to see it. And obviously Ghost will be quicker than Chris will be closer than Ghost at this stage, trying to get the move done, because Ghost is losing that time. Yoram and Sygate are side by side as well, as Dylan McGivern has spun, coming out from 2nd position, and he's lost his front wing as well. Oh no, he hasn't lost his front wing. He's recovered the car. There's left side end plate damage though on the car for Dylan McGivern, out of 2nd position, pretty much out of contention now. Don't know what happened to him. I didn't see that. I was too busy looking at Yoram and Sygate, which aren't quite close enough. There was another yellow flag out on track, and I think that's a fake yellow flag appearing there. Maybe that's for a little bit of front wing damage. And actually, Ronnie and Elmo are side by side. Steve and Chris are side by side as well, just in the foreground of shot. And Ronnie falls in from a mile back to the inside line. The Norwegian gets the job done. Brilliant move there by Ronnie. Great Elmo though on the back of him. Ronnie though gets the job done. The gap, to be fair, was there, and the gap was well and truly there for Ronnie, up into 8th positions. Day Miles, I think, has spun once again.
Yeah, and honestly, great respect from Elmo there, because was able to notice that Ronnie had sent it down the inside, and no contact made between the two of them, but a little bit of an early turn-in from Ronnie that could put him under pressure.
Oh, Day Miles has stopped out on track. He's got the car back going again. Not sure what happened there. That was a bit of a desync moment, certainly, from Day Miles. I'm not sure if he was expecting the safety car to come out, or if he was actually going to deploy one himself, which I hope the latter wasn't going to happen. Sygate, by the way, and Great Elmo side by side, and Great Elmo, in fact, has... Did he desync?
I think he had a bit of a wobble somewhere, because he lost positions to both Siege and Sygate.
That was strange. Really, really strange. He is losing time. I wonder if he's hit the wall, maybe, coming out of 13. As Siege and Sygate are side by side down the straight. Day Miles have retired into the pit lane. Siege, though, side by side through 22 and 23. This is normally impossible. Siege, though, great move to the inside line. Gets the job done. He's into 9th now through to 8 because Steve WG's in the wall.
Yeah, and here goes Yaham on Elmo around the outside.
Action-packed Ghost as well on the back of Legend, all of a sudden kicking off. That yellow flag is still there. I think Steve has had a moment, obviously he's recovering the car from that spin. Absolutely mayhem here in Jeddah. Dan leads the way. Yellow Geeson in 2nd. Yellow Geeson, to be fair, is keeping up with Dan at this stage. There is a pit stop happening, and that's Ronnie. I wonder if he's been on the wall somewhere out on track. Ghost and Legend make contact out of turn number 1. It is traditional TML F3 racing. I think Legend's letting Ghost through. He is indeed. So Legend lets Ghost through. Dan, Yellow Geeson, Paddy top 3.
Honestly, it has all kicked off here on lap 10.
Oh, as Ronnie has crashed coming out of the pit lane. Had a huge moment coming out of the pit. I think he's fine in terms of his front wing. Yoram is now round, coming out of turn 8. Somebody spilled oil on the track or something here. This is unbelievable. Yoram is... Oh, it literally goes right in front of Key. And that is a virtual safety car.
Alright, well, we can catch our breaths a little bit now. With the virtual safety car being deployed, quite a few spinners we've seen. I'm starting to wonder now if Dan's tyres are starting to drop off, because I did notice a little bit that Yellow Gleason was closing in through a couple of the corners. So I think Dan's mediums may just be approaching that crossover point.
Yeah, if it's anything like F1 hard at this point in the race, what a restart, by the way, by Yellow Geese, and I caught that from his perspective. He's 5 tenths behind Dan now, all of a sudden, from a gap that was 1.6 seconds. Dan has been caught completely and utterly napping, and as I was going to say, the point was, the centre hards are much quicker in this race compared to the mediums, especially. So Dan now, has he gone aggressive too early? Obviously, with getting that move done on his teammate, of course, Dylan McGivern at the time. Key has spun through the final corner. I think he's in the wall. But Dan there leading the way. Yellow Geeson in second. It's all now dependent, I think, Mike, on Yellow Geeson's pace. Is his pace quicker than Dan? If not, Dan is going to get away. And if so, Yellow Geeson will close in on Dan. But for now, Dan has already pulled out 6 tenths of a second in the first sector.
Yeah, there goes my theory out the window. Looks like the mediums do have a little bit more to go.
Didn't even use up any EOS as well, which I think is probably the more important thing in all of that. So Dan leading the way, using up more EOS now, coming down the straight. I wonder actually if Dan
Ghost
had
is gone. Ghost has spun it.
10-13. A shame for Ghost. I think he's got no front wing damage though, which is good. Gets out of the way, great Elmo. And look at he recovers the car in pretty much clear air now, because Maze is in behind, Yarman in behind as well. They will obviously try and gain once again. But Dan leading the way, 1.2 seconds the gap. What I was saying there though is, as I think Yellow Geese and ghosted there for a second. I wonder if he hit the wall on the left side end plate. I saw that in the background. But he's within DRS range.
Yaham gets through on Maze and up in the P10 goes to McLaren. He's on a bit of a recovery drive, and to be honest, I think he might end up doing a medium from this point on.
Yeah, definitely so. Looking through as well what I've just seen on Twitter, apparently snow coming next week, which is not that good at all. Energy demand is certainly going to soar, apparently, and I have seen that we are in for very, very cold weather conditions, which might cause potential issues to the power supply. As Ghost is into the pit lane, he did have damage as a result of that collision. He's going for a set of medium compound of tyres, but Dan leading the way, Yellow Geeson second. Dan is so quick through the first sector. In the middle and final sectors though, Yellow Geeson is quicker than him.
Yeah, it looks like Dan has so much confidence in this first sector that he's just able to keep getting away from Yellow Geeson.
Yeah, definitely so at this point. And yeah, Dan leading the way, 1.7 seconds. I think my theory's just gone out the window, to be honest, there as well, with Yellow Geese now losing time as opposed to gaining it. And everyone is strung out like a washing line at this stage as well. Legend on the back of Chris is probably the closest battle we've probably got out on track. Anything else happening out on track, of course, will be looked at, but Legend and Chris, Legend trying to gain on the back of Chris. He's not within DRS range. He's 9 tenths off the back of him at this stage. And we are now halfway through the race with Dan leading the way. Yellow Geese in second. Parody there in third. Legend and Evil Chris fourth and fifth. And this is the closest battle, even though it's 8 tenths per second between them both.
I'll tell you what, I just want to put this out there, and that, a bit of a shout out for a driver doing incredibly well. Cygate up into 7th.
Yeah, Cygate's doing a good job. I mean, May said he was one of the ones to watch, and certainly is. He certainly kept his nose out of trouble at this stage, with everyone behind him, I think, getting caught up in some form of incident. There is a yellow flag. I got concerned there for a second at the Cygate, but it's Steve. Yeah, Steve on the other side of the track through 16 and 17. Spun the car around, and great Elmo in the pit lane. No surprise that the drivers are now pinning in for that set of hard compounded tyres right to the end of the race. And great Elmo actually in a very good, consistent point scoring result at this stage, of course in the top 10. And he's actually got a front wing change. That's why he's decided to come in.
Let's see where he comes relative to Ghost, because Ghost is just crossing the line now.
Side by side, I think. Could be side by side coming out of the pits, and actually he's behind him. So Elmo's behind him. Obviously, if he floored the throttle through that pit lane, and obviously went flat out coming out the pit lane exit, I think it could have been side by side there. But in the end, Elmo not happy. Those hards are absolutely cold as anything at this point, and Ghost with those warmer tyres is now pulling away. It's going to be 2.5 seconds sooner rather than later, and already is 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, it takes a little while for these white wall tyres to heat up around this track, but once they do, he should start to claw his way back. And let's not forget, I believe Ghost
and
is
here we
going
go
to be hard pressed to get to the end.
Here we go from the lead of the race. Dan is into the pit lane. So the whole compound tyres are going to be going on. He will get easily 12 laps to the end of the race. It is very, very simple to do around here with very low tyre wear on this compound of tyre as well. Dan in the pit lane. Steve has spun again through turn 13. So might be a cause for safety car. Oh my god! Dan a huge slap of oversteer coming out the pit lane. Luckily keeps the car in the straight line, and luckily he's ahead of any trouble because Saigate and Yoram are having a battle in the foreground of shot now in for 6th and 7th. But Dan there in 5th, doing a good job. And Dan there at this point is, in reference to Yellow Geeson, 16 seconds behind him. Now it's 19 seconds for pit stop around here, so that in theory means Dan is going to be roughly around 3 seconds ahead of Yellow Geeson coming out the pits as Yoram all over the back of Saigate.
Yeah, but Yoram going to look for a move. Saigate moves to cover the inside. Yoram's going to try for a little bit of a switchback. Can he get the traction?
That slight snap from Saigate, I thought it was coming all the way to the left-hand side, very similar to what we had with Jamie and Yoram a little bit earlier on in the race, but Saigate managed to keep that under control. He backed off the throttle, Yoram in behind him as well. These guys, of course, will have to pit again, which is the big worry for these guys in terms of consolidating their finish for a possible top 10. Yellow Geeson though leads the way. Siege side by side with Legend into the final corner as well. Tries to go all the way around the outside on that fresher set of medium compound tyres. Fights his way out the car. Was going to say he's going to try and get the move done on the exit, but not like that, I don't think. As Yellow Geeson responds to Dan coming in the pits. Dylan McGivern, 3-second penalty as well. And Siege in the end not close enough to the back of Legend. As Yellow Geeson out the pits, Dan is there, right hand side, coming down the straight, and Yoram has passed Saigate in that shot as well, and Yellow Geeson is ahead of both of them, and that is absolutely crucial. And now, actually, Mike, he's on that side of medium compound tyre, so he's going to be on the quicker tyre now, Yellow Geeson.
Yep, the quicker tyre for the man in the Williams, and needs to use them ASAP. He won't lose as much time as what we saw earlier with where I believe it was Great Elmo losing about 2.5 seconds with the car ahead of him, which was Ghost. But in the Geeson, he is going to have the quicker tyre for the time being. It's a case of can he catch, can he pass, can he pull enough of a gap so by the time his tyres drop off, Dan can't come back at him. Yeah,
he'll lose about he'll lose about a second, I think, on this lap, Yellow Geeson, but it's all dependent now. Does Dan have the pace as Steve is in the wall, I think, again, coming through that part of the track. And Yoram has picked up a 3-second penalty as well for a little bit of a corner cut through 17. He's on the back of Yellow Geeson as well, trying to gain, obviously with blue flags in the way as well. In fact, blue flags just got out of the way because Steve's got out of the way of everyone, which is good to see. And Yellow Geeson now going to try and set aside to Siege, set aside on Legend into the final corner. Tries to get the job done now to the inside line. Legend tries to get the exit on the outside. And now it's possibly side by side in towards turn number 1 if Legend's got the pace, but Siege has got the straight line speed, and that was easy in the end into the final corner. Job done for Siege, and now Yellow Geeson's tyres all of a sudden beginning to warm up. 1.2 seconds, purple final sector. Now Yellow Geeson has to get on with things.
Yep, and now we'll see just how good Dan is in that first sector, because he does have the tyre disadvantage at this point in the race, and he's been very good. Oh, as Yellow Geeson, I think, turned in a bit too early there.
Not sure if he hit the wall, and Dan's actually made a mistake ahead. Dan has made a huge mistake ahead. I just caught that in the foreground of shot. That was a huge mistake from Dan. He got forced out off the camber of the corner. There's a slight bump through 6 and 7. He got forced off that bump, and Yellow Geeson in the end is now all of a sudden within 0.7 of a second and has gained a second because of a mistake from Dan. Both beginning to creep in terms of mistakes. They've got to keep it clean.
Yeah. Keeping it clean is the name of the game, and Geeson has DRS, so he has a bit of an advantage here. Does he go for the move as quickly as possible, or does he plan to save a little bit of ERS behind Dan? That's the question.
If I was him, and with those tyres obviously falling off towards the end, I'd sit and wait him behind. I know I've got the pace compared to him, and I know I have obviously got the speed compared to him with the DRS. So if I was in Yellow Geeson, shoes, as Ghost is in the wall! Ghost is in the wall! Just ran and ball with him there on the back of Saigate, who had a slight snap of oversteer, and that is a VSC because he's lost his front wing. Ghost, unfortunately, losing his front wing. Siege is into the pit lane. Legend also into the pit lane. They're expecting a full safety car. It's not going to happen. And Yellow Geeson now has Obviously, I think this is not going to help him in terms of this VSC, but it will help him later on with his tyre wear. Even if we have another 30 seconds on this VSC, at least it's about 2% difference in terms of tyre wear, which might just get him to the end.
Yeah, speaking of tyre wear, Legend checking on a set of softs.
Yeah, interesting. Obviously, lap 17 out of 25. He's on that set of soft compound tyres. Sidegate also put it in for set of softs a couple of laps ago as well. But that now means he is committed to the end on that strategy, no matter what is going to happen. So Legend is obviously going to have to try and figure out a way to get into the race. He's going to be on the quicker tyres, but the softs around here are absolutely abysmal in terms of their tyre performance. So Legend has got to hope that he can try and nab a few seconds off the VSC restart, which he has done. He's gained about a second off that VSC restart, and Yellow Geeson has gained a good 0.4 of a second off that safety car restart of the VSC as well. Paddy still leads the way. He's still yet to come in to the pit lane. Everyone else has been in at least once. Dan, though, in second, Yellow Geeson there in third, and both of them now are going to be pursuing each other for the race as Roygaard and Great Elmo are right next to each other, side by side, coming out of turn 13. Great Elmo just hanging on to the position for now, the Belgian over the Norwegian, and Roygaard there still in 11th and still doing a good job.
Elmo doing a good job, and see, for Elmo, looking ahead, Sidegate and Legend potentially could be dropping off, and you also got penalties on Dylan and Yaham. Plus, they've been privy to a few mistakes here and there.
Yeah, definitely Siege as well on the back of Evil Chris, and Siege obviously saved with that safety car, that VSC coming in, and now he's going to be sailing it down the inside line, easy as you like, passing Chris. The medium's working for Siege to the inside line, should be job done. It is job done, and Siege is through and he's into fourth. Evil Chris there in fifth, and also we saw position gain, I think, from somebody. Don't know who it was. It was somebody. I definitely saw position change. I think it's Elmo and Roygaard. That's who it is. And Roygaard sails past him down the straight in towards turn 1. And Roygaard's through and he's into 10th.
Yeah, also battle for 12th. Kiki versus Maze. Very familiar battle that we've seen many times in the past.
Yeah, normally 99% of the time it's normally Maze that comes out on top in this battle as well. But obviously, with him not adapting to the game as necessary, and obviously with Key obviously in front of him as well, not adapting as possible, Key's actually pulling away from Maze, which is very rare to see. So Key's obviously got good pace around here. Maze is just struggling, maybe hoping to try and get round, maybe hoping to pick a few positions up if, of course, another safety car does come out on track. But he's doing a good job. He's out of trouble at this stage in terms of penalties. And speaking of those penalties, by the way, Yellow Geeson is right on the back of Dan in towards the final corner. 3 seconds for Dylan McGivern, Yarum, Roygaard, Key on 3, Schmitsky on 6, Ghost on 3, and here comes Yellow Geeson possibly for the net race lead in towards turn 1, right on the back of Dan in towards turn 1. He's going to have to do this the hard way, going around the outside. Dan gives him absolutely no room. The line is stern in towards turn 1, bit like Hamilton and Verstappen. Dan and Yellow Geeson come out the corner still side by side, and I think Dan is just about to come on top of that one. No quarters given. That's racing right there, and Yellow Geeson in the end had to back out, and there was no other option.
Yep, and Dan giving absolutely no quarter right there. Elbows out, and this is what we like to see.
And is he going to look for him in towards turn 13 perhaps as well? He's right on the back of Dan at this stage, and what is a really interesting battle developing out on track. Key, by the way, has disposed of Maze very easily indeed. He's right on the back of Great Elmo all of a sudden as well. So Key has got very good pace in this race in the second half. He's looking to try and gain through the field, maybe the likes of Roygaard and Sidegate in his sight as well. But back to that battle for the net race lead with Paddy still out in front, and Paddy's tyres obviously not going off at this stage either. Dan and Yellow Geeson have now got to try and trade blows, but if I was in Yellow Geeson's shoes, I'd be waiting and waiting and waiting, getting cocky, but not getting too cocky, and then going on the final lap for the race win. And that, I think, is going to save him his tyres as well, even though his tyres will definitely get to the end of the race. Dan getting closed down by Yellow Geeson again. There was a position change further down the field. Key did get past Great Elmo, I think, into turn 13, so that was a good move from there. And Key, as soon as I say that, has just spun, and he's lost the position, and I think Roygaard has been caught up in that instant as well. Was it Roygaard that spun? Anyways, here's Yellow Geeson to the outside line, through turn number 1, and down in towards turn number 1, gets the job done, and parks the car beautifully on the apex. Yellow Geeson through. He might have had a date, but he's now got a date with destiny.
Yeah, and this will be interesting as well. Powdy going to come out of the pits. not too far off his battle for the final spot on the podium. He's on fresh softs.
He is on fresh softs, and yeah, he is gonna obviously, and he's actually got the move done on Legend straight out the pit lane. They were side by side, and Powdy's already capitalised on that. He's into fifth already, so good start there by Powdy. Obviously on that to the soft Campana tyres, he will get to the end very comfortably on those tyres as well. So it's not a question of if he's going to get these moves done, it's when he's going to get these moves done. And obviously with Powdy, if his pace and those softs really come into play and they don't die off like they normally do on the 2-3 laps into this stint, Powdy is going to be all over the back of Chris soon, and he's going to be all over the back of Siege, and you never know, he could get both of them before those tyres go off.
Yeah, absolutely. As Powdy still waiting for his tyres to heat up, so there's an opportunity for Legend to come back at him. There's another yellow flag. I believe that's Stevie getting out the way.
Yeah, that is Steve getting out of the way indeed. That is through the straight down and towards 22 and 23. Dan sitting and waiting in behind, maybe trying the tactic that I've been mentioning in the chat. As Yellow Geeson leads the way, Dan there in second, and Dan not using up any EOS, and that is the big indicator down the straight. Normally when you are a driver that is interested in a move, you use up that EOS, but in Dan's case he doesn't. And look at the gain he gets through turn number 1 on the brakes. Beautiful braking there from Dan, all over the back of Yellow Geeson. Yellow Geeson now has put himself in a real full sense as Powdy's going to get the move done on Chris, diving it to the inside line of turn number 1. Beautiful move by Powdy. He's into fourth. Those tyres now need to last for at least another lap and a half or so, and then he'll be on the back of Siege sooner rather than later. But that was lovely from Powdy. He's into fourth.
Yeah, Powdy getting the job done there. 1.4 seconds the gap between him and Siege. Question is, can he close up? Can he get there? But we got Dan over the back of Yellow Geeson here. And with DRS approaching, will we see another swap for the lead?
Possibly so, possibly so. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a real ding-dong fight right to the checkered flag between these two. I hope there's no safety cars that get involved in this now, because we want this 5 laps right the way to the checkered flag. And Dan is all over the back of Yellow Geeson, nearly on the nearly touching the back of him. Coming through there is Powdy after that spin. He spins, coming through 16 and 17, and all of that hard work has got up in smoke for him. He's now down in 8th position, out of the points, out of the podium positions. Dan is on the back of Yellow Geeson still, fighting for this race lead in what is becoming one of the most interesting battles out on track. And Dan gets a really good run out the final corner, on the run to the line. He's not even going to use up any arrests to the inside, on the outside line, down towards turn 1. That should be Dan's move. Yellow Geeson normally commits himself on the brakes. This time around, he doesn't. And Dan now through, and he's into the lead of the race. And Yellow Geeson playing it smart. And this is now, Mike, going to get very tactical.
Yeah, and I think Yellow Geeson realising that he has an opportunity here to take the win if he plays this correctly. Trading back and forth with Dan could potentially work out for him, but he could be on the losing end of that strategy. He wants DRS for this final lap of the race, and all he's got to do is just keep with Dan, save up his ears, and he's got a good chance.
Yeah, well, the thing is, as well, with Yellow Geeson, obviously he's been fighting with Dan. They've been trading positions. That is taking more hit on the tyres as well. So those mediums are definitely going to start going off towards the end. As Steve has picked up a 3-second penalty. I think he's coming through the first sector there, if I'm not mistaken. But Dan there leading the way from Yellow Geeson second. And Yellow Geeson all of a sudden caught on the back foot, even though he's got DRS enabled. He's still caught on the back foot. There is another yellow flag out on track, and is that Steve round again? I think it is. It is Steve round again. Key is still going through that first sector, but Dan still leading the way. Yellow Geeson is within touching distance, within striking distance, but he doesn't want to get too far behind. If he's outside of 0.8 of a second coming out that first sector, Dan will apply the throttle, will apply the power. So Yellow Geeson's going to react to that, and on lap 23 out of 25, this is finely poised, but it's all dependent now, not on Dan's tyres, on Yellow Geeson's tyres, and whether they're good enough to get the race win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we saw with...
Sorry to cut you off, Ronnie's just spun in the background through turn 1.
I think we saw with Dan, and he was able to get a good chunk of laps out of those mediums, but also there was 2 safety cars, so in terms of racing laps, I think Yellow Geeson's at the same point percentage wise as where Dan probably was when he came into the pits.
He's had to use up a bit more ERS though, Yellow Geese, and I'm on the back of him, on board with him. Bit of a snap through turn 13. All of these sneaks as that Steve WG is retired in the pit lane. That is a shame. Dan makes a slight mistake though, coming out of 16 and 17. Now brings Yellow Geese back into play, back within 7/10. But now look at Dan getting that ERS down the straight. He is quicker, visibly down the straight, even with using that ERS is Yellow Geese. So he's got to try and close in, and he won't close in if he does that because he makes a mistake coming out of 23 and 24.
Yep. I think the pressure's starting to get to him a little bit now.
This is still finely poised. Yellow Geeson has now really got to apply the pressure. Do you know what? He's going to use up all of his ERS, I think, this lap to try and close in on Dan. Maybe put himself ahead going on to the final lap, and then put Dan in a bit of a full centre. Sidegator spun coming through, I think that's 16 and 17, so that is him down in 12th position. Legend and Dylan McGivern are trading blows through the final corner as well, right in the background of shot there. And now Legend to the inside line. He's going to try and defend the position, I think, to the inside. Dylan McGivern's coming at him though, in towards turn number 1, and in the end it doesn't happen because Legend still keeps that inside line, keeps the move, still in 5th position, and in the wall is Evil Chris.
Chris, all you have to do is just keep it on track, mate.
It's such a difficult corner though. The outside curb lures you in, and for Evil Chris, he got lured in by that curb on the outside. It was a shame, and he could have easily been up there in terms of this. He was running 4th. He was running in such a good position, and now possible podium has gone out the window as well. That's unfortunate, and he was on the better tyres as well right to the end of the race as Dan now applies that pressure to Yellow Geeson, and all of a sudden, I've seen it before, where it's been a second and the driver in second is still caught up, so it's still not done yet for Yellow Geeson. Dan has a huge snap of oversteer though, slight snap there, coming through 24 and 25, now to the double left-hander, and Yellow Geeson, 24% of ERS, he has now got to burn that down the straight because there's going to be, I think, no other opportunity for him.
Yeah, and he is going to burn, and he's going to open DRS. He's going to close up as much as possible. In that middle sector, though, Yellow Geeson did drop off Dan, so he was outside the DRS, and that used all his ERS.
Dylan McGivern goes around the outside of Legend as well into the final corner. Yellow Geeson still on the back of Dan, as you mentioned there. Yeah, he has used up that ERS indeed, as Legend on the back of Dylan. Running down in towards turn number 1, but I don't think he's going to get the job done. We are on the final lap here in Saudi Arabia. Dan leads the way from Yellow Geeson, who is now going to put in the final lap of his dreams at this point with that date with Destiny. But Dan so far has measured this race very well indeed. Yellow Geeson all of a sudden coming back at him, and those tyres are suddenly switching themselves on as Kia spun through the final corner. And Dan all of a sudden has now got to become the chaser. Oh, Yellow Geeson, sorry, has got to be the hunter that becomes the hunted towards the end of this race, and Dan still leads with half a lap to go. Yellow Geeson though slightly wide coming out of 17 and 18, and Yellow Geeson now is on the back foot all the way down towards turn 27.
Yep, and now DRS will close Yellow Geeson up, but will he close up enough to have a look in the final lap?
Oh, he's in the wall! No. That is it, he pushed too much, he pushed the limits, and Yellow Geeson in the wall. He had to try something, and that was not the right idea, unfortunately. Gets caught on the curb, left side unplayed damage on the car. Luckily he's got away with it though, and Dan, around the final corner, in the end has measured this race very, very well indeed. Of course, he absolutely dominated qualifying, didn't really dominate the race. Dan though wins here in TML F3 from Yellow Geeson in second and Siege in third.
I'm pointing out, Legend, puncher.
And that is front right? No, it's not. It's rear right.
Legend dropping places, and not much track left, but I think he is going to lose a spot to Proudy here.
Oh, he might lose 2. Great Elmo was catching at a rate of knots as well. All depends on this final corner for Legend. He's through the final corner safely, but look at the tread on those tyres. The tread is going to go possibly before the end of the race. Elmo luckily is coming through the final corner for him, so I think Legend is going to get home there to finish in P8, even with that rear right puncture. We saw it last night with Tom. Front right puncture, rear right puncture in the end for Legend. He finishes there in 8. That is, in the end, a bit of a sour taste, I think, from Legend's perspective, because he drove such a good race in that But who did drive a good race, though, is Dan. He dominated qualifying. In the end, he didn't really dominate the race. He had yellow geese and all over the back of him in the final 6-7 laps of the race. So maybe have to hold him off on that transfer to F2. Really?
No. Look at the comments. Look at the comments in the stream.
Let's have a look on the stream then. Dan takes the win, Yellow Geeson in second, Siege there in third. To be fair, I did say at the start of the race, if he wins the race, then he's moving up to F2.
Yeah, but he said he had damage in the 16th lap, so it was close.
It was close indeed, and that is the end for TML F3 tonight. But Dan had damage. Even with that damage, he dealt with that really, really well indeed, and that is why I think he was getting closed down by Yellow Geeson all the way right toward the line. In the end, Yellow Geeson obviously made a mistake coming through 22 and 23, but in the end, LRE Dan to the top step of the podium. Might be the first and last time he's on the podium in TML F3, but he takes the top step. Very, very nice win from him indeed. And obviously, if that transfer is going to happen to F2, then we will, of course, wait and see with that one. Myself and the rest of the league directors are going to have a discussion probably over the weekend, possibly before Thursday's races, to try and deliver some much fairer, I think, in terms of the gaps in between the drivers. So we're going to move a few drivers about. Ivan and Black, I'm pretty sure, are going to move from F1 maybe down into F3, and Dan may want to move to F2 as well. He's saying no, it's his bedtime. So there we are. He's woke up, probably thought, you know what, I'll come and race. In the end, though, that move from F2 might not be justified, because Yellow Geeson's fastest lap was only 0.12 of a second off him.
Well, I'm going to quickly have a look and see what lap he set down.
Yellow Geeson, I think that was it was towards the end of the race. It was like lap 19, 20, 21, around that area, I think. But while you have a look at that, Dan...
That was the last lap.
Last lap? Okay. Okay, so Dan takes the race win in the end, though, but Yellow Geeson in second, Siege there in third, Dylan McGibbon in the end in fourth. He got caught out completely off that first safety car restart. Yoram there in fifth, Chris there in sixth, Powdy there in seventh, Legend in 8th, Elmo in 9th, Mays run off the top 10, then Key in 11th, Ghost in 12th, Sygate 13th. In the end, Roy got with the fastest lap there down in 14th, Schmitsky in 15th, Ronnie in 16th. They all finished. Steve DNF'd along with Day Miles, and Jamie, of course, didn't even complete a lap. As a result, that contact with Yoram further down the field. Siege as well, saying in the comment section, thought you get fresh softs for the race. He started on 18% tyre wear. That might have been because if the game selected his qualifying tyre, that might make sense if it's 18%. But Siege obviously struggled. In the end, though, did pick up a podium. Oh, and that's that one over and done with. TML F3 done for round 1, and very interesting race, Mike, indeed. Shall we try and get the top 3 in, or do you not want to bother this week and then get them in next week?
I actually have to shoot off, but if you want me to invite them before I have to shoot off, I can do it if you want. I'm
shooting off as well, so that's what I was asking. Yeah, we've both got to shoot off, unfortunately. So the interviews, of course, will return next week for TML F3. And, of course, next week we go for our first sprint race to Imola. What do the drivers have to look forward to around that? Because it really is an all-round Formula 1 track.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, few potential for spins. A couple of the corners, very off-putting. Some difficult... cambered corners as well, where you can just really lose the back end, but a good fast flowing track and should be good for battles.
Dan as well has mentioned in the F3 chat on Discord, he can't drive on Thursdays if you want me in F2 because of his bedtime. So there we are. Looks like he's staying in F3 then. After all of that, but we'll have a word over the weekend. I am sure we are going to have a good insight into and delve down in the analysis, certainly in terms of the F1, F2 and F3 races. Imola, as you say though, a proper all-round Formula 1 track. It's going to be fantastic. Are we going to see the likes of Yaram up there? Are we going to see the likes of Powdy up there as well? Who knows what we're going to have in Imola. Of course, sprint and feature race to come next week, which is going to be very, very good indeed, and hopefully more to come as we go through the season in TML F3. But for myself and from Mike, thank you so much for watching, and until next week in Imola, goodbye.